welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this. For centuries, our understanding of the ancient world has been heavily filtered through the lens of Greek and Roman historians. I mean, we've all heard the stories, right? The brave 300 Spartans making a desperate stand against this exotic, tyrannical horde. But today, we're going to look past that Greek myth and dive directly into the real, unvarnished history of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. We're going to explore how they actually governed, what they genuinely believed, and how they laid down a blueprint for civilization that honestly still impacts us today.
Part 1. Leviathan from the East. A new threat emerges.
So, let's set the scene. We begin our story at a terrifying precipice for the Greek world. The year is 480 BC. To the fractured, constantly bickering Greek city-states, the massive fleet and army appearing on their horizon wasn't just a regular regional squabble. No, this was literally a Leviathan rolling in from the east. This was the Grand Army of the Persian Empire, a staggering superpower that stretched all the way from the deserts of Libya in the west to the Indus River Valley in the east. The Greeks, who could normally field maybe a few thousand men at best, were staring down the barrel of a multinational force that basically represented the entirety of the known world.
Now we've got to talk about the massive gap between the legend and the reality here. The famous Greek historian Herodotus, well, he claimed that this invading force numbered over 2.5 million men, which is wild, but modern scholars estimate the actual reality to be somewhere between 100,000 and 200,000 soldiers. But make no mistake, even at this adjusted number, this was a mind-boggling, incomprehensible force for the time. It was the absolute pinnacle of ancient military might. So you have to ask yourself, how exactly did this colossal King of Kings force come to be?
Part 2. Forging the first superpower. Rise of the Persians.
Let's rewind the clock just 80 years before that massive invasion. The Persians started out as a relatively unknown nomadic pastoralist people living up in the Zagros Mountains. But then, under the absolutely brilliant military leadership of Cyrus the Great, they exploded onto the world stage. In roughly a decade, Cyrus rapidly overthrew the Median Empire. Then, taking a huge gamble, he ruthlessly pursued and absorbed the fabulously wealthy Lydian kingdom. And finally, in 539 BC, he managed to capture the legendary city of Babylon. And get this, he did it without shedding a single drop of blood.
Part 3. Masters of the Ancient World. Tolerance and Rule.
Now here's the really fascinating part. This wasn't just about conquering land, it was about how they ruled it. What truly set this rising superpower apart from brutal predecessors like the Assyrians was their totally unprecedented policy of mercy and religious tolerance. When Cyrus conquered Babylon, he actually freed the Jews who had been held there in exile for nearly 60 years. Not only did he allow them to return to their homeland, but he actively funded the rebuilding of their temple. Because of this incredibly lenient approach, Cyrus earned some serious, revered praise in the biblical book of Ezra.
And we know this benevolence wasn't just a myth or a story from a single religious text. We have the receipts. This is all corroborated by the Cyrus cylinder. It's a physical clay artifact discovered right in the ruins of Babylon. On it, the Persian king basically portrays himself as a peaceful liberator, completely chosen by the local gods. He restored dilapidated sanctuaries and just let the local populations carry on with their lives and their own customs. It was a masterful, highly practical strategy for managing a massive multicultural empire. Culturally, while they let their subjects worship however they pleased, the Persian kings themselves are believed to have been guided by Zoroastrianism. This is a fascinating ancient faith centered around the supreme deity Ahura Mazda, which roughly translates to Lord of Light and Wisdom. The core tenet here was that mankind is locked in this epic, cosmic struggle between truth and light on one side and the forces of deceit and evil on the other.
And here is why this is an absolute game changer for us today. This ancient belief system likely inspired many of the foundational concepts we see in modern monotheistic religions. Think about it. The ideas of a distinct heaven and a hell, a final day of judgment for your soul, angels, and even a central devil figure. Scholars believe these concepts heavily stemmed from Zoroastrian influence, basically rippling outward through the people that the Persians conquered and liberated.
Okay, so Cyrus lays this incredible foundation. Then his successor, Darius the Great, takes it to a whole new level. Darius ushered in a golden age of administration that basically locked this vast territory together. He divided the realm into manageable provinces called satrapies. He built an unbelievable ancient highway system, including the massive royal road stretching all the way from Iran to Anatolia. He even dug a forerunner to the modern-day Suez Canal to connect the Red Sea to the Nile. Oh, and he constructed the magnificently wealthy capital city of Persepolis. It was an absolute triumph of ancient logistics and infrastructure.
Part 4. The Greco-Persian Wars. Clash of Civilizations.
But as with all expanding empires, they eventually hit a wall. As the empire pushed ever westward, it inevitably crashed right into the fierce, independent city-states of Greece. This legendary conflict ignited in 499 BC with the Ionian Revolt over on the coast. That provoked Darius to attack, leading to his famous initial defeat at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC. A decade later, his son Xerxes launched that massive 480 BC invasion we talked about earlier. This whole era featured the legendary stand at Thermopylae, the catastrophic Persian naval disaster at Salamis, and finally the decisive Persian retreat following the Battle of Plataea in 479 BC.
Now, the Persians weren't stupid, they were highly adaptable. Realizing that an outright military invasion simply caused the fractured Greek mainland to unite against them, they intelligently shifted their tactics. Actually, scratch that, they completely changed the game. They pivoted to a strategy of divide and rule. Using their near unlimited treasury, they simply opened their wallets and funded rival Greek city-states. This kept the Greeks constantly fighting amongst themselves and utterly neutralized them as a threat to Persian borders. Part 5. Alexander and the Fall, End of an Empire. For decades, this brilliant diplomatic and financial strategy worked perfectly. But as the years wore on, centuries of supreme wealth and absolute power began to breed deep internal decay. Just look at the contrast between the stable, visionary, and tolerant reigns of early kings like Cyrus against the empire's late-stage leadership. Those later years, under figures like Artaxerxes III, were heavily marred by the rot of factionalism, crushing taxes, and incredible paranoia. You literally had eunuch puppeteers like Bagos orchestrating chaotic strings of bloody royal assassinations, poisoning kings left and right just to maintain backroom control. By the time Darius III finally took the throne, the situation was dire. He inherited an empire that was technically vast, sure, but it was deeply corrupt, heavily taxed, and totally fractured by internal royal strife. And against this decaying giant stood a new threat from the west, Macedon. The Macedonians were completely united, highly motivated, and led by an aggressively ambitious, battle-tested 18-year-old tactical genius named Alexander the Great. The contrast really couldn't have been sharper.
Alexander's conquest, it spread like wildfire. It was incredibly rapid and practically unstoppable. In 334 BC, he routed the Persians at the Granicus River. The following year at Issus, and then again at Gaugamela in 331 BC, Darius III was actually seen fleeing the battlefield in a total panic. I mean, imagine what that does to your troops, completely shattering their morale. By 330 BC, the royal heartland was captured, and the Achaemenid line officially came to a violent, tragic end.
The absolute finality of this defeat was cemented with the burning of Persepolis. After spending 3 months looting the city's unbelievably vast accumulated treasures, Alexander's men put the magnificent capital to the torch. They burned it right to the ground. Some historians suggest this was direct revenge for Xerxes burning Athens 150 years prior. But whatever the motive was, the fiery destruction of Persepolis served as the ultimate dramatic bookend to the glorious Achaemenid ruling house.
So, wrapping up this explainer, I hope it's clear that the Achaemenid Empire was so much more than the tyrannical villain portrayed in those Greek stories. They set the absolute earliest blueprint for how to govern a complex, multicultural, globally connected world with unprecedented tolerance and brilliant administration. And it leaves us with a profound final thought. If the victors truly do write the history, just how much more of our ancient world is still out there, waiting to be truly understood when we finally look past the myths. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating slice of history with me today, and keep questioning the narrative.